Hi, Essex. Good morning. Monday, the 18th of January, and welcome to English for the next 4 days. We're bringing our Woodland project to a conclusion, and the conclusion will be an English live lesson in which as many people as we can possibly fit in will present their posters. For today, we're going to have a close look at the report, making revisions and editing. In my opinion, revisions are done first, because revisions are really the area in which you're thinking about your audience. So you're making quite substantial changes, but not necessarily to the whole report. Editing is more of a sort of mechanical process, fairly straightforward, and would be applied to the whole of a text, in this case the scientific report. Remembering that the report was in key sections, so we had the scientific aim, the method, the observations and results with any data and diagrams, and then the project conclusions. And of the ones I've seen, they're largely very good. However, I don't think anyone would agree that their report is in a final position to be published. And that's really what we want to do. So we're going to take today and look at the draft, and we're going to work on revisions and editing, both the report and the poster, please. Then the day after, you'll have time to publish both your report and your poster. On Wednesday, I'm going to ask you to self-assess your writing and make some speech notes or speaker notes for your presentation. And then everybody to upload your report and your poster. Now, it may be that you've done it on the computer, or you may choose to publish on the computer, and that would be great. So you can send me that version. And on Thursday, because I would have had your copies, I can put them together in a presentation pack, and then I would need the volunteers so that I could place their presentations nearer the front. However, the idea would be that everybody would present in terms of the PowerPoint, but only volunteers would be asked to speak at the live event. So in essence, everybody would be published, but only volunteers would speak live. So making revisions. Essentially, this is a little checklist I've put together for you. I will send this presentation out in a form that you can print it, so that you can go through each of these. So you're making structural improvements to your draft, elaboration, reordering paragraphs. Now, you're not going to reorder something from the method into the aim, but if you have multiple paragraphs within each section, you may have decided they're not quite in the right order to lead your audience through the piece of writing. Varied sentence structures all have a place, but simple, compound, complex sentence structures in various formats, multi-clause sentence structures, vivid and precise words so that you're clearly communicating with your reader, examples. So sometimes you might say something and it's quite hard for the reader to understand what you're saying, so you might give an example that they can relate to, or perhaps a picture that you found. If you've accidentally repeated something, and by that I mean repetition can be quite useful, on occasions, but if you've done that unintendedly, you're going to be deleting it, and you'll delete any irrelevant points that are not enhancing the quality of your report. And clarifying scientific vocabulary, because you know it, your reader may not necessarily know or have a clear grasp of certain vocabulary. After revisions is editing. So that's you've made errors within the draft that you spot while you're proofreading, and these are the sorts of examples of errors that you might have made. Spelling errors, punctuation errors, either mispunctuation or the wrong punctuation. Capitalization errors, capital letters where they don't need to be, lack of capital letters where you actually need them. Checking the tense agreement. Does the tense flow through your report and your poster presentation? Expanding sentences that are fragmented and leave the reader uninformed or guessing. And anything that's ambiguous, it's not clear, it could mean one thing or another, or an incorrect use of a scientific term. So here I have my checklist, and I also have here an example of a piece of writing that I've done. So it's a method. The study was in the woods. It was very cold and wet in the woods, but fungi like that. We used sticks and string and looked at it carefully, and we made some notes and other things. When we come back, it was fun. The square thing didn't change, so that was boring. Me and my friend runned around, and that was fun. On some scrap paper, what my teacher gave us, we did some drawings of nature. Fungi was interesting. That's it, really. Not saying that anyone has written a tool like this, but what advice would you give this student? I've marked in red some little notes for when I come to look at my editing. But what advice would you give them in order to make revisions? Pause the video and have a think about that. So I've had a go at really doing a revised method. I've had some feedback, I've had a conversation with somebody, and I realized actually I didn't really make a very great effort for that first one. So here we go. Let's hope this one is much better. The study set out to research the organisms that use the school woodland area as their habitat. Being damp, the woods create perfect conditions for fungi to thrive. These fascinating organisms need moist areas to obtain nutrients and ultimately reproduce. A quadrat method is chosen, with careful consideration given to the positioning. Away from well-trodden pathways was important. Below is a labelled diagram that explains how the quadrat was constructed. Each week, the researchers come back to the woodland in order that careful drawings and observation could be collected. Repeatedly returning to the quadrat enabled changes over time to be observed. So I feel that's a lot better. I think there are a few notes for editing, so I've put those in red. They're a combination of spelling errors and tense errors particularly. And the words I've underlined, which you can see here, organisms, nutrients, and a couple of others, they're going to go in my glossary. So now you have some time so that you can proofread your work. First of all, make revisions to your draft, and then secondly, make any editing changes that are needed. I've got some tips for you when doing this. Read your writing to someone at home, or read your writing to each other in your study groups. Or record yourself reading your draft and listen to the recording. And that will tell you quite a lot about obvious things that need changing. So year 6, spend about 1 hour on this lesson today, and I'll see you again tomorrow when you will have plenty of time to publish your writing. So until then, take care.